legend that you never heard of before. I said I am a lion, but you never heard me roar. I am a hero that nobody celebrates. But if one person remembers my name, that means I made a change.
Hello, my name is Patience Adamu. I am a founding board member of ASE Community Foundation. We're so excited to have you all here today. I will be your master of ceremonies, kind of walking you through this launch event where we're so excited to have you here. But to get us started, I think we are going to do a bit of an annotation activity. It is Black History Month. We are celebrating Black folks, and all that we contribute to society. So we want you to describe in one word, what does Black excellence mean to you? But we want to do this in the most collaborative way possible. Because we're in a virtual environment, we can't all walk up to a whiteboard or text it in or anything like that. So we're gonna use Zoom's annotation feature. At the top of your screen, you should see this screenshot image. You should see that you are viewing Reet Singh's screen. If you are able to, please click View Options. There's a little arrow right beside the words View Options, and hit Annotate. After you hit Annotate, it will ask you to draw or to text or anything like that. We're asking that, if you want to draw, sure, but maybe use the text function and write down what Black excellence means to you. We're going to run this activity just probably for a couple of minutes while we wait for others to join tonight's meeting. So I'm just going to repeat it one more time. At the top of your screen, you should see that you are viewing Reet Singh's screen. Beside that, it says View Options. Click on the arrow beside View Options, hit Annotate, and then hit Text, and then type in 2 words that exemplify or embody what Black excellence means to you. And we'll keep the music going so that you can have a vibe, but in the meantime, just write a couple of words about what Black excellence means to you, and we'll get started very shortly. Thank you so much. Okay, I think we had quite an amazing kind of series of words that we found on this annotation whiteboard. I do want, for those of you who weren't able to use the board, we do have quite a few words that came in through the chat, so I'm just going to go through those first before kind of heading to the whiteboard. I see here reaching potential. I see here hope. I see here celebration, and I think those are beautiful words about what Black excellence means to you. In terms of this this beautiful, colorful whiteboard, I just want to acknowledge the hearts and the stars, because that in itself is saying so much more than words can sometimes. But force, compassion, determination, lifestyle, and actually, let me close this. Yeah, lifestyle and unapologetic. Unapologetic vibes, yes. Perseverance, the intelligence, authenticity, celebration, lit. Okay, whoever said lit, yes, I'm with you. Entrepreneurship, creativity, pure vibes. So not just vibes, pure vibes, which is really important. Innovation. So I think this was an excellent exercise, and I really want to thank everyone who participated in doing this, because I think this is what ASE is all about. It's about community. It's about folks doing what they can to contribute to some joint efforts here around Black excellence. So as a way to kind of really start off an event, we have to acknowledge that we are on traditional on the traditional lands of Indigenous folks. And so we have a elder with us this evening. Okay, an elder with us this evening who is going to open up this event for us. So Wendy, welcome, Wendy.
Great. I'd like to say miigwech, a thank you for allowing me to join you tonight. And I'm going to say a few words in our language, and then I'll translate those words. So bonjour, megazido dem, alwero kaza bejgo indigenakas, wasaksing nandunji, giwid nzibi nandunjaba, jamen matge parwad min dao. Chimigwach can gego gajak tot. Chimigwach. Minon bamadzwin. Chimigwach dwebganak. Pwagan, sheshnak, torkmak. Chimigwach bomnak. Chimigwach dodamak. At this time, I'd like to introduce myself just briefly. I'm of the Bald Eagle clan, and I'm Ojibwe from Wasauksing First Nation, and my Anishinaabe name is one who helps, and our family name translates to one who stands alone. And my English name is Wendy Phillips, and so some of the words that I have said are when we gather in more than two or three, or to give acknowledgements, and this is for us, that we give our gratitude. And so there's many things that we give our gratitude for, and so we describe a being that has created all things. And we think of this being as gifting us with many gifts. So this is what we describe as how we live here. And so for us, that we describe that we are to live a good way of life. And so this concept for us, when we describe our belief system, that we don't describe that we have a religion, that we describe that it's a way of life to live within creation, and to live within the laws of creation. And so for us, this is what we give acknowledgements to, that there's many beings that has come before us. There's many beings that have left gifts, has left knowledge, teachings and ceremonies. And so that's what we give our gratitude for, that all these things that have been gifted to us. We also give acknowledgements as well, that we also have many people in our lives. So whether they're family, what we describe as our clans, but we also describe those that we don't see. And so for us, we describe that they help us achieve this good way of life. So for some of us, this is, when we talk about that, when we can come together like this, that this is when we celebrate a good way of life. And so for us in our teachings, that we talk about, we have many brothers and sisters in our human family, and how we are to treat one another. And this is for us when we describe, when we connect to one another. So meaning that when we welcome another to our territory, that there's expectations as a person who is on our territory as to how we are to treat one another and to treat one another in a good way. That we are have like a good friendship, so good relations. And how do we do that? And so that is something for all of us as to that ways of communication that we do them as best as we can. And we also talk about when we have our relations that they are to be as peaceful as we can. And that when we come together, that our work, that we'll do that work together in a good way. So this is what we talk about when we describe this territory, and when we describe the treaties to these territories, that it is a duty not only for the Indigenous people, but also for the non-Indigenous people as well, that we are to uphold these values and principles. And that is why this is a beautiful place. And so I send this message to each of you that, you know, from our people to your people, you know, from our lands to your lands, from our waters to your waters, from our winds to yours, that we share all these things, all these gifts. And these are all gifts that are given to each of us. And to remind one another that we are a human family and we are all brothers and sisters. And that the work that we do together, that we do that all in a good way. And it is to ensure that our future generations will be healthy and they will be strong. So in saying that, I would like to say a big thank you again for listening. And I'm really thankful to be part of this night tonight and to be able to welcome everybody here in such a good way. And say a miigwech, thank you.
Thank you so much, Wendy. Thank you so much. Our audience this evening is national. We do have a national audience. So what comes with that is often a bilingual audience as well. So before we go on to our next speaker, I do understand that we are going to give, we're going to do a land acknowledgement, and then we're going to give a bit of a translation for folks on the line who are Francophone speaker, who are Francophone. So let's do the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations and is home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. We also acknowledge that all treaty peoples, including all settlers, migrants, and those of us who came here involuntarily, particularly as a result of the transatlantic slave trade. We also pay tribute to our ancestors of African origin and descent. This personal land acknowledgement is a small act of reconciliation, honoring the land and Indigenous heritage, which dates back over 10,000 years. So Fatuma is going to provide a bit of a French translation before we go on to our next speaker. Fatuma?
Bonjour tout le monde, merci d'être part de cette activité, reconnaître les personnes de race noire. Du coup, si vous avez besoin de transition en français, n'hésitez pas à nous contacter, soit sur le box ou levez votre main. Il y a une manière de faire sur réaction, si vous cliquez, et vous pouvez nous laisser savoir et je serai capable de vous traduire durant l'activité. On vous remercie de votre temps et c'est vraiment apprécié. Passez une bonne journée et prenez note de cette activité. Merci.
Merci, Fatuma. So we're going to move on to our next speaker. We are honored to have Professor David Onley with us this evening. David Onley is the former Lieutenant Governor of Canada from 2007 to 2014. As a senior lecturer and distinguished visitor at the University of Toronto, Scarborough, he teaches 2 senior seminar courses in political science, the politics of disability, and the Vice Regal office in Canada. Prior to his appointment, Onley had a 22-year career with Toronto City TV and was the first newscaster in Canada with a visible disability. I want to welcome Professor David Onley.
Thank you very much, Patience. I think my mic is open, or is it? Yes, there we go. Thank you very much, and it's a real pleasure to be here, and I've enjoyed the opening ceremonies, as it were. You'll notice right behind me is the Canadian flag and the British flag, and it's a picture that was given to me, and because I teach the course on the foundations of our political structure in Canada, I thought it was the absolute perfect picture to put up behind me. So that's what it's all about. I want to draw to your attention a brand new book that just arrived in the mail. It reflects, it's a very shiny cover, but it's entitled Between Fitness and Death. And it's by a political scientist at the University of New Brunswick. But the subtitle is what got my attention after I started to read a little bit of the first review, Disability and Slavery in the Caribbean. And the author, Professor Stephanie Hunt Kennedy, makes the point of the connection between the two. And it's something that I would dare say I had never, ever thought of prior to doing the review of the book. But we live in an imperfect world. That goes without saying. And I read an article this morning about the former Liberal member Selina Cesar Chavez, whose book is entitled "Can You Hear Me Now?" and her falling out with the Liberal government. But what jumped off the page of the review, and it's quite a review, are her words about the federal prison system in Canada. Where she says that the Indigenous population is 8% of Canada, but it comprises 25% of those incarcerated in federal prison. The Black population, she continues, as a Black woman, is 3.5% in Canada, but occupies around 10% of prisons. And she said, you would think that with that glaring disparity, someone who takes a knee, someone who is apologetic about blackface would try to do something about that, would take it into consideration and not further try to destroy families and destroy lives. Pretty harsh words, but the statistics are the ones that jump off the page because there's more. You're talking about 8% of Indigenous people, 25% incarcerated, Black population 3.5%, 10% in prisons. Combine the two together, and you're looking at 11.5, let's just take it down to 11% of Canada's population occupying 35% of the prison population. What is wrong with that picture? Everything. Now here's another statistic to think about. And this is, I can say, absolutely the only benefit of the pandemic that has occurred, the only benefit that has least impacted Canada. And that is that StatsCan has revealed that 22% of all of the victims of COVID, the deaths of COVID, have occurred within the disability population. Now, they didn't say those exact words, but that's what they discovered, because what they've stated, and they've done it a couple of times now, is that of the fatality rates, 22% occurred, 81% occurred in either senior citizens' homes or long-term care facilities. And the reality is this: either if you're a senior citizen, you are either living an independent life or you need physical assistance because you are disabled. And that's if you're 65 and over. So you live in a senior's home. If you are under 65 and you're not independent, you're disabled, you need assistance, you need help in daily living, you live in a long-term care facility. So between the two, we have 81% of all of the fatalities coming from 22% of the population. It's a shocking statistic because what it means is the total death toll for Canada in terms of COVID is affecting 19% of the able-bodied population under the age of 65. It's really quite shocking. But there are some additional numbers that I think are germane to what we're talking about here today. And that is, and we hear the phrase diversity and inclusion. We hear it all the time, and it's a good idea as far as it goes. However, when we're talking about, and I've given a variation of these remarks a couple of times before during my term as Lieutenant Governor, when we talk about diversity, whether it's at a bank or another major institution, typically they break the categories down into people of color, Indigenous, LGBTQ, immigrants, women, whatever categorizations you want, but then they have a final catch-all category of the disabled. And what I point out is that that's incorrect to do it that way, because people with disabilities are the minorities of the minorities. So it was driven home to me during my term as Lieutenant Governor when I was attending an event at the opening of a downtown Toronto facility, a new facility for Indigenous people. And just as I was about to leave, one of the elders thanked me and he said, "I appreciated your remarks." He said, "But I want to just let you know that the people who are really up against it are those Indigenous people who also happen to have a disability." And the same applies for people of color. And the same applies for LGBTQ. The same applies for every minority group in our society. Every minority group in our society has at least 22% of persons within their group who have disabilities. And what are we doing for them? How are we recognizing them? Well, the simple truth is that, frankly, until recently, we're not. This is one of the great things about this organization. And that's why when I was first approached, I immediately said, yes, I would be glad to be involved in whatever way I could. We have come a long way, a very, very long way, but we have a long way further to go. I want to read to you some very hard words, hard to listen to and hard for me to speak. It comes though from the very first words of the book I just referred to, Between Fitness and Death, Disability and Slavery in the Caribbean. You know, in the news business, it's called having a strong lead. And the strong lead are the opening words of your remarks that must catch people's attention. So you would have words of a certain age group, someone my age, who would remember the first words over the news: President Kennedy has been shot. That's all you needed to hear. Or the Space Shuttle Challenger has exploded. Words like that grab your attention. That's called a strong lead. I'm not sure if I've ever read a stronger lead. And I apologize up front for, I don't even know how to express this, for the pain that this will no doubt carry, because it grieves me to read these words, but this is an honest report to set the dimension of the problem. So the author of this book begins in her introduction with the words, "In the 1690s, the editors of the British publication Athenian Mercury delved into the question as to whether or not Africans and Blacks would ascend to heaven on Judgment Day, and if they did, whether their Blackness would ascend along with them." That's quite an opening sentence. The editors asserted that Africans' abilities to rise to the last day was really a question of whether white or black is a better color. Although they conceded that notions of beauty were somewhat relative, in the end, the editors maintained that the meanings behind black and white were not subjective, but rather natural. They explained that black is the color of night, frightful, dark, and horrid, but white of the day and light, refreshing, and lovely. It goes on, and it goes on, and it goes on, and there's no need to drill home the point, except to say that was in the 1690s and is just as ludicrous to our thinking today as anything you can imagine. I mean, we know that genetically there is no difference between peoples on the planet Earth. It's like a 0.02 genetic difference, and that our color difference is based entirely on the amount of melatonin in our system. And I love the comments by Bodhi Bachman, who's a great preacher, who says, don't be envious just because God has given me more melatonin than you do. And he tries to bring home that point. What I would like to kind of conclude and perhaps entertain questions, if that's the way we want to go with this, I don't know, is that I hope that by beginning initiatives like this one, we can get to the point where society will recognize that every minority in our society, whatever it is, by race or color or creed, sexual orientation or what have you, that there's a significant percentage of people within them, 22%, who have a disability. And they don't have the same job opportunities, and they don't have the same career opportunities, and their likelihood of catching COVID and dying from it is significantly greater than the rest of society by a statistically provable number by Stats Canada of 81% to 19%. So thank you very much for inviting me to participate with you today. I unfortunately can't stay for the full duration because of a family commitment, but I'm just really thrilled to be a part of this, and I look forward to ongoing relationships in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time this evening, Professor David Onley. Just because Professor David Onley is leaving a little bit early today, we did want to pause for any questions that may come in through the chat, or that may come in just by folks unmuting themselves. We will have a formal Q&A at the end of today's session, but just wanted to really pause for any questions about that very powerful, 5 to 10 minutes that Professor Onley just shared with us.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. It's Lisa. Thank you, Professor Onley.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for saying that.
Thank you.
I text Selena and told her you shouted her book out, and actually,
oh, good.
We highlighted the book for our members. We call her a warrior.
Yeah, she is. Well, you can also let her know I ordered the book this morning while my wife was reading the excerpts over our morning coffee. So Amazon says it'll be here by 10 o'clock tonight. I don't believe it.
I'm sure she'll be over there signing it for you the next day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'd be glad to take questions.
And questions, we can forward them to you, and you'd be happy to answer them for us.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, awesome.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
So we are going to move to the next part of our presentation, or of tonight, of this evening's agenda, and that is actually Lisa, I believe. Yeah. So Lisa, if you want to get back on video, take yourself off mute, and yeah.
Well, here I am. Professor Onley said a lot about why we are here, and you're going to hear more about the specific statistics as well. But I am the founder, like Patience said. We've got together to put this together. So because my own experience, which is what I'm going to share with you today, my own experience is as a person with disabilities over decades. And a lot of people who know me, have known me for years, have not known that I have those invisible disabilities. And it has been quite the struggle for me. It has been extremely difficult to be in the position and be where I am today, raise my kids alone, go to school, go to work, and try to be as competitive as the next person who doesn't have the extra work to do as that person with disability, or is not comfortable in herself. The person that everybody knows as Lisa's very strong was not courageous enough, not comfortable in her own disability to ask for the help. And that's why I want this organization to exist. I wanted to have the voice of those whose voices have never really been heard and continue to not be heard very loudly. because if they don't see the disability, they don't seem to think it has the effect that they feel it should have. So I'm just telling you who I am. I'm putting it out there. I'm going to tell you that I have post-traumatic stress as a survivor, which goes along with the other parts of anxiety and depression, but it's mostly anxiety. And I have autoimmune problems and some other autoimmune issues that come along with that. And people can't see that. But all these years, I have had to confidently ask people to support me or move things around to make it easier for me to do the work I'm doing. We want to create a shift in the culture so all of us don't have to keep explaining to everyone what it is that we have, why I have to prove that I have a disability, which we should not have to do and legally do not have to do. And what are all the wonderful resources out there for us that some of the organizations that work with us don't understand the intersectionality of Blackness or gender or sexuality. And therefore we're not getting the full success off of those resources as well. So if we go through I'll tell you a little bit about ASE, and I'm always open now that I opened myself up officially here with ASE as a person with disabilities. So if we go through the PowerPoint, the word ASE.
Ashe in Yoruba means so shall it be. It's like saying an amen at the end of a prayer. It's an affirmation. As you know, the Yorubas are intentional about the way they name their children. They believe that every time you call a child's name, you are affirming and speaking to life what that name means. And so, with ASE Community Foundation, every time we mention ASE Community Foundation, anytime ASE Community Foundation is called, we speak to life what ASE Community Foundation stands for. And so shall it be.
Thank you. That was TT, one of our board members. And as we move on, moving to the next slide. So our logo and what we call ourselves was carefully selected. The logo is, the symbol of the logo has significance as well. It's an Dinka symbol from Ghana, and it represents endurance and resourcefulness. It is a hardy plant, it's a fern. And in Ghana, people who are given this or wear this is a symbol. It suggests that they've endured many adversities and outlast much difficulties or challenges. And that is the truth about people with disabilities. And particularly when we add Blackness, gender, sexuality, age, all of those isms on top of it, it has become quite the struggle for others. And we do acknowledge where we do get our resources from. So our vision, I'll make this quick because it's on the website. Ultimately, we draw from a Black feminist theory, critical race theory, and disability social justice with intersectionality perspective. We ultimately aspire to include those voices, like I said, and those understandings of those experiences within the Black Canadian diaspora, and of course, with other identities. We envision identifying nationwide research and policies, networks, and research projects that also investigate these intersectional experiences for Blacks living with disabilities. Through collective partnerships, we hope, and some of you are here as partners or supports, with service providers are already supporting people with disabilities or Black clients with disabilities. So we're not interested in creating a brand new organization to gather everybody in one. We're more interested in wayfinding, which will be the next slide, which is about us outreaching and being more like the glue that connects our organization together. So this idea is, as a hub, is to build a community of practice with our partners and professionals that focuses on the awareness of Blackness and disability, and to offer more culturally appropriate service and assistive technology resources, if we go and you do there is an audit, and Janelle, one of our other board members, is going to talk about the gap. We also hope to provide resources, best practices, and educate organizations that envision their services that are free of ableism, anti-Black racism, and to commit to embedding their own inclusive design, a seamless accommodation, and assistive technology within all their borders of their programs, services, and structures. So we're hoping to work with partners who have the same vision, and we were hoping to gain resources through grants and sponsorship to be able to provide that for free to organizations wanting to meet this mission. So we'll go back to the other slide. Other one. I'm missing a slide, but that's okay. So ASE's priorities and next steps. So we basically want to drive a critical shift in the culture, I said this earlier, that embraces the boundless talents and qualifications of people with disabilities and facilitate the full participation of all Black community members. So we have a lot of work that we're doing right now on the Black community, challenging anti-Black racism. What we're hoping is that we'll have partners and allies and members as you who are joined us today that will include that voice of the 20-something% of the Black community who also have disabilities and are not often included in those discussions. Thank you. Now, this is the summary of what we do. Our priorities are the hub, ultimately, is gathering resources. We want to be on top of all the new resources. So we'll be on top when BC passes their Disability Act. We update people on the Ontario Act, AODA. So we're hoping that this will be a place people will want to come to so they can know they have the most up-to-date resources or accommodation opportunities for their staff and their community. We're going to focus on education and training, research and policy, and economic innovation, working with other organizations. Thank you very much. And as we move on to priorities and why we're here, I'll introduce Janelle Anderson. She is a member of our board as well, and she's the senior research analyst.
Thanks,
Janelle.
Lisa. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Janelle. I am a social worker, a researcher, and a ASE's policy analyst. To start, I wanted to tell you my story. So I was born and raised in Jamaica, and my journey to Canada started around 2002. My dad sponsored both my brother and I, but only my brother was successful in immigrating here. I was denied because of my congenital disability and that I would be a burden on Canada's healthcare system. So I remember hearing this as a child and feeling very angered and, rejected that label of being a burden. In my reflection, I reflected back at this moment and the trauma that it has caused me, but it also made me realize how much I've internalized a lot of ableist ideals of being a burden and how it skewed the view of my body and how worthy or useful it is to not only my community, family, and country, but it also made me refuse help in all aspects of my life. I did have an amputation in 2003 and I came to Canada in 2008. So it actually costed me a leg to get here. My story is not at all unique. In fact, many other immigrants with disabilities endure traumatic processes of immigrating to Canada, or migrant workers, their families being denied if one member has a disability. This is my story and what I bring to this work. In 2018, Statistics Canada released a report called Canada Survey on Disability, and it showed that in 2017, 22% of Canadians aged 15 and over had one or more disabilities. Disabilities related to pain, flexibility, mobility, and mental health were the most common disability types reported in the survey. Disability in Canada also negatively correlates with employment rates, income, education, and housing. For example, the survey highlighted that persons with disabilities were less likely to be employed than those without disabilities for those aged 25 to 64 years. The disparities experienced by both Black Canadians and Canadians with disabilities have been well documented by federal agencies and community organizations. However, little is known specifically about the experiences of Black Canadians with disabilities. So that intersection, who, will experience disparities in education, employment, entrepreneurship opportunities based on that intersection of ableism and anti-Black racism. So available data from an American study by Nuru Jeter et al., who analyzed findings from a 2006 American community survey, found that Black people fared worse than white people for chronic conditions to disability. So this can be accounted due to the impact of anti-Black racism and lack of access to equitable care and resources. So Black people represented only 3.4% of the Canadian population, with the largest population of Black Canadians residing in Ontario. Canada's Black population experienced higher unemployment rates, earned less than white Canadians, about 73 cents on every dollar, and were more likely to have a slightly higher labor market participation rate. It's very important that when we look at these numbers, that we also reflect on how society views disability, because the number one barrier people with disabilities face is in accessing necessities. With an intersectional analysis, we see that anti-Black racism, ableism, along with gender biases, etc., the population is at an even higher risk at experiencing health, poverty, human rights violations, unemployment, and underemployment, and overall exclusion from fully participating in society. So the labor market, housing, education sector is not accessible for a lot of people with disabilities because of refusal to accommodate. Many are excluded due to this. And now, as we reflect on the pandemic, we see how easily it was for corporations and educational institutions to shift to accommodate or utilize things that people with disability have been fighting for decades. So the graph here actively demonstrates that disability and poverty are intrinsically linked. Poverty can never be eradicated until disabled people enjoy equal rights with non-disabled people. This means that having a disability might lead to a poverty on the individual and their family due to institutional and attitudinal barriers. And poverty might cause disabilities due to the lack of access to social determinants of health, to things critical to the social determinants of health. Similarly, we can examine the effects of how it is important to note that poverty is not evenly distributed in Canada. The gap between rich and poor is ever widening and disproportionately impacts racialized communities. For instance, 23.9% of Black Canadians are living in poverty. And because of this gap, Black people living in poverty are more likely to have poorer health, lower education rates, fewer job opportunities, than non-Black people. So we really have to look at structural and systemic anti-Black racism, as well as structural and systemic ableism, and how that plays a significant role in excluding and creating conditions and barriers for people in accessing resources. Currently, there's huge debates going on about Bill C7, that's the medical assistance in dying. And while it's important to have accessible access to MAID, I think it's also equally important to ensure that people with disabilities are able to live their lives fully participate, have support, because a lot of the environmental factors, as we see just discussed with regard to the disability poverty cycle, play a role in the quality of life someone has. So it's really important to really look at this in its totality and not focus on one single issue, because systems of oppression interlocked and they work together and support each other in marginalizing people. So the report available on the website came out of the need to acknowledge these gaps in culturally responsive services for Black Canadians with disabilities. There's a need for integrative and specialized services that cater to Black Canadians with disabilities, which aims at disrupting that disability poverty cycle and how racialized poverty is. Lastly, we need to have a cultural shift in normalizing disabled bodies and call for policy research and more services that recognizes the intersection of race, disability, and particularly Blackness and disability. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you, Janelle, for sharing your story with us. I think we've heard David Onley speak about his story. We've heard Lisa share her story. We've heard Janelle share her story. And first, I want to say personally, I'm very honored to be part of this group where I have heard all of this. I think now is an appropriate time to do some decompressing and to have a little bit of self-care. So we are proposing a bit of a dance break. We want to get people moving however you can. We're just going to take a few moments and play a very danceable song, a very lit song, and get moving however you can, in your seat, out of your seat, using your hands, whatever works for you.
So patience, I'm moving my chair out of the way.
Okay, yeah, it's about to go down with Lisa.
Jerusalema ikayalami ilondoloze uhambe nami zungishilana Jerusalema ikayalami ilondoloze uhambe nami zungishilana dawo yami ayikholana so wami awukholana ilondoloze zuhambe nami dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze zuhambe nami.
That was wonderful. I hope that it wasn't just Lisa that got up and got moving or was doing a little bit of movement. I think that was just a great opportunity to just kind of let's take care of ourselves a little bit. This launch event is going to have some really heavy subject matter. There's been a lot of oppression, and I think we've spoken about that a number of times in today's event. So I think that was a good opportunity to dance. Okay, so now we're going to move into more stories of resilience. Next, we have Fatuma. Fatuma, if you want to share your story with everyone.
Hi, everyone. I'm the French and Equity Outreach Coordinator for ASE. I do have a visible disability. So I'm going to share my story and my discrimination throughout high school and university. So I came to Canada when I was around 8 and 9 years old. Before then, I lived in Djibouti, which is East Africa country. and I had a stroke at the age of 7 years old. So when I was entering elementary, I had my stroke, who left me paralyzed to my right side. When I came to Canada, I was able to get some assistance. And the first time I noticed discrimination myself in my own eyes was when I was in 8th grade and I had to choose my class code, because we have in Ontario, the French schools, when you go into 9th grade, you have to choose either pre-college class code or pre-university class code. I was told by a counselor, my mom was told by a counselor, that she needed to choose pre-college class code because of my disability, I wouldn't be able to greatly finish university or be successful in university. My mom, at that time, my mom speaks only English. So even though Djibouti is a francophone country, my mom didn't want to really debate with the counselor. She put me through pre-college classes. But what my teachers noticed in high school when I was finishing my last year of my last semester of 9th grade was that I was able to really specifically be able to finish my grades, and I was able to have a higher grade than my classmate. So at my last semester in 9th grade, I was approached by a professor who asked me directly why I was in pre-college classes. I didn't know what to answer, so I went back to my mom and I asked her, and she told me that a counselor in high school told her that I wasn't be able to successfully finish university, so she wrote me down on pre-college classes. Thank God I had teachers who were able to advocate for me, who went to the principal and asked to be changed my class code. So I was able to change class code, was able to finish university, and was able to finish high school with a high average, and was able to get awards for my achievement in finishing high school in 2010, sorry. And in 2010 September, I started University of Ottawa, where I finished in 2015. I had my degree in political science and public administration. Throughout my studies at the University of Ottawa, I also worked in the program that works with people with disabilities. So I was a mentor, a proctor, and a receptionist in that department, and I was able to finish and be able to be hired to that department in a lot of times. Also, while finishing my degrees, I was able to get an award who was given from the ex-Governor General of Justice, who is Yasin Nafi, for my achievement to helping women with disabilities and also helping women with disabilities with new immigrants. So I do know how hard it is for women who have disabilities to go through life, and I also know how hard it is for women for people who have invisible disability to go through life, because I worked in a system where I saw discrimination being placed every day, even opening a window door where the academic assessment was for people with disability, but the door was a window door. So what we had to do is ask to have a button and stuff so the people could enter without breaking their back. Also in high school, I was able to ask my CPO, which is a school board, to put buttons, because since elementary school through my high school, we didn't have a button, and I was using my leg to open the door. So there's a lot of discrimination that people go through in school, in high school, and through life, that people who doesn't have a disability don't understand. But in speaking out with Ashe and putting a face to those issues, we're hoping to achieve a great success and be able to change how people with disability are seen, because discriminating a person with disability is inhumane, and it is also unjust. Thank you.
Thank you, Fatuma. Thank you for that. I think there's so much we can learn from the stories that we're hearing from folks who have invisible disabilities to the folks who have visible disabilities. I think what just really struck me about what Fatuma shared is something as simple as a button, right? There's no button for someone who is in elementary school and needs to get around, needs to access different parts of the building. So there's so much work to be done, and not to say that ASE will be doing all of the work on our own, but for everyone who's on the line, you are our allies, and we have to do this work together. Speaking of that collaborative approach, we really don't want this to all be one-way communication. We want to ensure that we're having conversations and we're fostering a collaborative environment. So what we're going to do is we have some breakout rooms. I think we have 3 breakout rooms or maybe more. And we're going to ask folks to join the breakout rooms and have some conversations with some predetermined questions. And then we're going to come back and discuss what we talked about in those various rooms. So we have 3 questions for you all. Is diabetes or lupus a disability? Can you name some other invisible disabilities? And how can we accommodate people with invisible disabilities? Okay. What were some of the discussions that happened at the smaller circle level? Anything anyone wants to share?
My group was very talkative. Somebody from there may want to share something. Unmute and you're on. Nobody?
I took notes for my group.
Yeah, Mason, since we have some folks who are shy, share what notes you took from your group, please.
Okay, so we talked about like respecting people's privacy and the concerns about having to disclose that you have a disability in order to receive accommodations. And we talked about the importance of making sure everyone feels valued and safe. And we also talked about sometimes it's hard to reach out, whether it be because you're worried about stigma or doubt that people may have or mistrust. And a point that was made is that hopefully there are systems put in place where people can receive those accommodations, even if there's a small percentage of people that would take advantage of those systems. It would still be worth it for the people who really need those accommodations. Yeah.
Thank you, Mason. Anyone else hear something similar to that in their smaller circle?
Someone in my group wants to talk about the lack of resource and how to get resource. We talked about that in my group. So anyone who wants to start the discussion, please do.
Yes? If you're not comfortable, that's fine.
Sorry, Lisa, did you say my name?
I see your name.
Okay, I can share a little bit. So in our group, without doubt, we talked about like lupus and diabetes being a disability and recognizing that any medically diagnosed condition is a disability. We named a few. We talked about fibromyalgia. We talked about acquired and traumatic brain injuries. Sometimes disabilities can also be temporary in nature. And then we also talked a little bit about accommodations and being able to create barrier-free opportunities for individuals to access the accommodations that they need instead of going through like pretty extensive processes. I didn't share this in the group, but it made me think about I'm in graduate school at the moment, and that process to get accommodations is pretty extensive, and having to write letters and get write-ups from the doctor and then go through like a lengthy interview process. So it just makes it so complicated to receive the accommodations that you need in a timely fashion. So a lot of the conversation was centered around how do we make that, how do we eliminate a lot of those barriers that that currently exist.
Thank you, Jess. Anyone else? Maybe from a different group from Jess and from Mason? I think we had 6 groups going or 5 groups going. Maybe one more group.
I can talk about what my group discussed. So
Yeah.
we did discuss lupus being invisible disabilities and diabetes being an invisible disability. We also listed other invisible disability such as chronic back pain, arthritis, Moroja, I think it's called, dyslexic, leukemia, different type of mental health, such as depression, addiction, anxiety. We talked about bipolar disorder being invisible disability too, and ADHD as being invisible disability. We also talk about how does someone who has an invisible disability get the resources in schools and when they are going to elementary and high schools. And what we discussed was getting a broader advocate broadly for people with invisible disabilities, because in a lot of times it's invisible and no one sees it except the parents, and the child sees it, and in a lot of times it's not just them that they have to advocate, they have to get different group advocating for them. We also talked about getting more tests done by schools so that we catch quickly those invisible disability in regards of SGAD or someone who has an anxiety. So we know that that person has an anxiety and be able to help them throughout their schools. And we also talk about invisible disabilities in seniors and all in the same state, be able to quickly catch those invisible disabilities and be able to give them resources in those fields.
Thank you, Fatuma. I think in terms of my group, just to kind of close this off, we also spoke about some invisible disabilities, including learning disabilities, something else that definitely comes up in the school system. And we talked about food. It started with a conversation around diabetes, but then kind of progressed into conversations around folks who are anaphylactic, and how our society has kind of moved to really accommodate folks who have food or oh my gosh, what is the word? Allergies and certain intolerances when it comes to food. We've been really quick on that, and a little bit slower on some other things when it comes to invisible disabilities. So maybe that's a model that we should take, right? Where every single form, every single event that you RSVP to asks you about, your food intolerances and your allergies. Maybe another step would be, and this is coming from the group, this is not my genius, but it's coming from the group. They said that, maybe every time you RSVP for an event, or every time you fill out a form, there's a question about, if there's any other accommodations that you need, if there's anything that we need to increase your access to or around or anything like that. So I think those are really great discussions. Now we're gonna move on to the best, no, not the best part, but the funnest part. Yes, I said funnest. We have 4 prizes that were donated by amazing folks. So you can see them on the slide here. I think we have a book donated by Perdita Felician. We have, I believe this is jewelry or crystals or both, which was really exciting. And then we have an additional, I think Lisa, you might be best to speak about the prizes.
Okay, I'm wearing one of the prizes. In the middle is my daughter's off her desk crystal business, and she makes jewelry. So she has given one of the blue, I don't know what it's called, blue kyanite. That's a gift for someone. And then a handful of amethyst, and this is the self-care ones. I don't know. She'll have to explain it. And I forgot, she also is giving a tiger eye bracelet. Forgot about that one.
Beautiful.
On the other side is Raven's Luxury Events. Raven is on here. I hope she is. Another Black-owned business.
I am here.
Oh, there's Raven. And Raven, did you want to talk about your basket of love?
Yeah, so I'm just happy to donate. So I'm an event planning business, and we also do event decor and floral. And so we're donating a basket of flowers. And this one has beautiful red roses, but whoever the winner is, you can tell us what your favorite flowers are, and then we will definitely make you a beautiful basket custom made to you. And if you drink wine, you could tell me that too. Maybe I'll put one in the basket.
Wow. Wow. And then Sisha, are you on the phone? No, Sisha is our board member that donated the book. Again, supporting Black authors, Black art, Caribbean art. We want to support here. We want to be there to support each other. Let's start with the book. It's for the book. Go.
Okay. I'll restart. 33 is Wendy Phillips.
Wendy.
Wendy.
Oh,
Well,
awesome.
okay. That's one. Next.
Okay, next person.
The next is the
Here, Lisa, I got the
tiger.
wheel for you.
The tiger bracelet. There you go. Now spin it. I think we've been cooped up in the house too much.
Okay, that's gonna be a host probably. 1, 2. What numbers are 1, 2?
Who's 3? Mason, do we know who 3 is?
I'm gonna count down under us, so we don't choose us again. Danielle Houghton.
Yay!
This is it. Okay, great. Next. Congratulations.
Thank you.
One more time. Spin again. Ten. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. David Twenboa.
David.
Yay.
Okay, David. Okay, I'll give you the tiger eye. And okay, next is the crystals. The healing, the loved ones. Self-care.
Again, I'll count down from the host. 1 and 2 is Alyssa.
Oh, really? Yay, thanks.
Great. Next. Now it's the big one. This is for the flowers.
16 is 1 second. 16 is Curtis Vermont.
Curtis?
I'd like to thank the Academy for this award.
You get a bouquet of flowers.
And guess who's going to get it? The love of my life.
Who's that?
Tamika.
You didn't see her dancing in the background behind me when the music was playing earlier?
Go back on the screen. Okay, well, she's gone. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to close this event in a good way and say thank you to all those young people that put this event together. You saw them with the green behind them. I wanted to commend them and congratulate them on pulling this event together, having over 80 people registered, making it all work with all my crazy in the background. And thank you, Patience, for taking charge of it. I gave you lots and lots of notice as always. Anybody that knows me. And I wanted to thank everyone for participating and joining us. But there are many other ways you can continue to be a part of this journey with us. We will be working on a campaign to become members, and we'll talk more about that as the next few months roll around. There's lots of opportunities to volunteer, lots. There's opportunities to donate and sponsor us. So if you know of places where there's grants, where there's donations, or people looking to sponsor something like that, let us know. We do have space on our board of directors, and within a year, we'll be having our first annual general meeting. We'll be inviting more board members to take over or to fulfill other positions. And we're always looking for partnerships, people that are interested in doing joint work together, or where we can provide our lens within a structure that you're also working on. And I wanted to thank again, those are our, what do you call those things? Our hashtags.
Social media account.
Handles.
Social media handle.
Handles. Those are our handles. If you're old like me, then you can't laugh because we just talked about this. And I wish you all the best. I wish you all good health as we move through this COVID, and one day we'll all be where we need to be and we'll see each other in person. So take good care. Thank you very much. And congratulations to our team of young people for pulling this off. Congratulations again.
Bye.
All right, goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
I'd love to see your faces on the way out.
Everyone unmute.
Say bye.
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 Bye. Bye.
Donna.
They can hear you. They can hear you.
Deborah, thank you so much for coming.